Hey guys, Editor Norm here. This vlog's a bit different than the ones you're used to seeing from us. More of a heart-to-heart. I've spent a lot of time learning how to balance running a business and having great relationships at home, mostly by frigging it up. In light of that, I thought I'd make a video to highlight some of the things that I've learned along the way that I use in my life that make running a business and having a family a lot more doable, a lot less stressful, and at least a little bit more organized. Anyway, that's enough of me. Take it away, Regular Norm. So I've got a business, I've got a family, and those things don't necessarily go hand in hand. It can be tough, and if I was going to give you some advice on whether or not you should do it, I would say absolutely don't do it. If doing that is your passion and that'll make you happy, do it. 100% do it. But as I said, it can be trying, it can be difficult. I thought you need to make a video on 10 things that I find help me kind of cope with all of that. So let's head on to the first one. The first thing that I find helps me the most is not going it alone. So I guess the tip is don't go it alone. Find somebody you can absolutely trust and build it with them. You know, you don't have to have a business partner necessarily, but find somebody who you can kind of collaborate with, work well with. I find that helps a lot. It's somebody you can bounce ideas off of, share stress with, and just in general breaks up the monotony of the day. There are two caveats to this point. One of them being it must be somebody you absolutely trust. It won't work otherwise. And the other one is I would go ahead and say it's a must that you need to work well together. If you've got those two things and you share the passion, I'd say do it. On to the next one. So the next tip kind of ties in with the other one, and it's communication. Communication is probably by far the most important part. If you can communicate well, if you can really hear somebody. When I say hear somebody, I mean more like not the words that are coming out of their mouth, but the meaning behind it. Don't get hung up on a technical term or somebody says the wrong thing. That kind of goes both ways where you avoid using aggressive language. You know, don't be blameful. Something goes wrong, even if it is somebody's fault very clearly. Don't get hung up on it. You can just kind of get better at everything in life if you don't get hung up on things. People will like being around you more, and that'll be helpful for both your business and your family. This translates well to a workplace, even if you don't run a business. Don't be a dick. That's a good one. Next tip, build yourself a support network. While having a business partner in your life or somebody who simulates one is a fantastic start, you've got to do better. You need to have your family into it. You need to have close friends into it. Every single person that you can get that wants you to succeed is going to help you get there. They're going to go out of their way to make sure that you're okay. They're going to maybe offer you insights on things that you've missed, maybe on a project, maybe just in your personal life, and they can help keep you accountable to your goals. All those things are true with mine, and it's fantastic. It's one of the best things. Ultimately, they're going to help you stay you, and they're gonna help you with the next bit. Rule number 42, you're no good to anybody if you can't take care of yourself. That doesn't just mean health-wise, that means taking the time, taking the break for your mental bit too. I find that for me, if I try to push through when I'm not feeling it or I'm not doing well, if I just take the however many hours, just fall into a coma for a bit, when I come out of it, I catch up very quickly and miles more productive than I would have been otherwise. It's okay to push yourself and very necessary. The important thing to couple that with is making sure you plan your recovery time. That means if you need to push yourself for a project, make sure at the end of that project you've got at least a day just to not be pushing anymore, because your body's gonna catch up, your mind's gonna catch up, and you'll be better for it. Quick break. Do you guys see all that poo? Ew! Alright, the next bit is staying productive. It's one of the biggest things that helps me stay positive. It keeps me feeling like I've accomplished something, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. It could just be getting to the dishes. You know, those little things build the momentum to help you get the bigger things done. There will always be an endless list of things for you to get to. You'll never get to all of them, and making peace with that is a big deal. So get there. Make peace with the things that you can't get done. Something that can help you navigate that is our next point. The next step is planning your life. I don't mean build a rigid schedule. What I mean is lay out your week, build time blocks, figure out your whole week into intervals and when you're gonna be able to do things. For me, I have 3 time blocks every day, morning, afternoon, and evening. At the beginning of every week, I slide tasks in them. I start with things that I absolutely have to do. I put them in place. After that, I set one whole day aside where I'm not doing anything. I don't have any plans. Ideally, that's the rest day. After you have your must-dos and your day off, then I start to sprinkle things in that I really want to get to this week. And then after that, you have more time for things that you can either spend on more on family time, you can spend more on business. It's kind of like blocks of time that can flux either way, whichever you need to balance. That's been working great for me. On top of that, I try to find one whole hour that I'm not doing anything else. That way, it's kind of like a quick refresh, recharge. And if I need it, it's great. If I don't, also great. Next one I think is one of the most important ones, the Fable work-life balance. I want to say it's more like walking a tightrope where you got to make sure that if you're leaning too far to one side, you fix it quick. If you're going to jump into having a business, running a business, it's important to recognize that's going to be part of your home life. I find for me, taking ownership of that, making that part of who I am, for me, it's a good thing. My family gets it, and the very important flip side is that I make family a priority. There's times when the business has to come first, and there's times when the family absolutely has to come first, but the rest of it's up to you. You can choose to put the family first or the business first. It's always gonna be a balancing act. By not struggling to keep those two things separate, it really opens you up to putting energy into making sure that they fit together. That's the important bit. The next important thing is to be able to set effective goals. You've probably heard this before, or maybe you've heard this before, so I'm definitely not inventing this, but it's a thing called SMART goals. That means your goals should be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. All of those things will help keep accountable. Make sure anytime you're setting a goal, you have those 5 criteria checked off. I think the tricky one is relevant. If it's not relevant, it's straight up a waste of time. End of story. My 9th tip is to break your goals down into pieces, and I guess that's almost makes them goals in themselves. What I mean more is you're making a roadmap to your goal. What I do is I find out the very first thing that's going to cause me a problem. I solve the problem and then I move towards the goal. Once there's no more problems to solve, you've probably hit your goal, or you're very close to it. For me, breaking it down into smaller steps helps keep it from being overwhelming. If I get overwhelmed, I just stop doing everything. I'm sure some of you guys feel like that too, and that's just a balls feeling, you know? Can I say balls? Balls. Tennis balls. What am I talking about? Right, next point. Final tip, making sure you look at the big picture. It's incredibly important to look at the details, but if you don't step away just a little bit to look at a whole big picture here and there, you're never gonna actually see when you fell off track. That kind of ties back to when I make my weekly schedule for myself. That's kind of when I take my big picture look. I look at what I have going on, figure out what I actually need to do, and that keeps me moving in the right direction. That's it for today. If you found any of these tips helpful, feel free to hit that little like button, maybe subscribe, tell your friends. If you think I missed anything, if there's any tips that you would want to share, just leave them in the comments. I would actually love to hear way more tips. But on that note, I'm gonna pop into some family time of my own.
Daddy. Say hi.